Okay, looks like we are back here live. Um, hey, everybody, how's it going? For any of you out there that may watch this or be watching this, yeah, I was going to answer a question on shootings in general. I should have said United States, but I think most people understand my channel is mostly based on United States. So um, the question is, Justin, what do you think about all the different various types of shootings, public shootings, school shootings, store shootings, businesses, et cetera, et cetera? And also wants to know, why does everybody make a big deal out of one particular type of shooting, particularly school shootings um, involving children, little kids, innocent people? Um, let's see here. Well, like honestly, yeah, I think I get the question about why are people putting more emphasis on one particular type of shooting, whether it be like yesterday, it was elementary school. Well, I think that's simple. I think because anytime there's small children involved, obviously that's going to be a bigger problem. When I mean, kids can't defend themselves, they can't fight back against a grown man, especially when the grown man has a gun. They can't defend themselves. I think the kids that were targeted yesterday were all between the age of like 7, 8, 9, and I think maybe 10 years of age. And but to answer your question the best that I can, um, I just think anytime kids are involved, they're going to put more stock in that. They're going to be more. There's going to be more backlash when a child gets murdered, as opposed to an older person at like a grocery store. Um, and also, oh, I missed the other part of your question. And can these types of shootings be really prevented? Um, so it's a two-part question. First of all, I think school shootings, of course, are worse because kids are involved. Anytime a small child is killed or harmed, it's sad, because they are the future of the world, these children. So, that's always a sad thing. Um, and can these shootings be prevented? Not really. I mean, I'm not trying to sound like Mr. Negative here or rain on people's parade, but unless guns were completely just non existent, which that's not going to happen, obviously, no, you can't prevent these shootings because I was listening to somebody earlier today discuss how, well, these schools need to have better security. Maybe even like put security fences or gates around these schools, or better, or have military work at these schools, military agents, military personnel. And you just can't do that because why are you going to focus on all your attention on just one type of business? And when I say that, I'm talking about the schools. I mean, what are they going to do? Make every single business, schools, grocery stores, malls, airports, insurance buildings, hotels? What are they going to do? Make every single business in America like airtight with security to the point where nobody can get in? Um, that's almost impossible. Like I said earlier, I was telling a friend when they were saying, well, just make schools, more equipped to deal with this type of thing, make sure the doors are locked, better security, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, yeah, if they do that, then the shooters will just focus their attention on other businesses. Instead of targeting schools, they'll target a grocery store, like what happened 2 weeks ago in Buffalo, New York. So it doesn't really matter, and then if, like, say you make grocery stores more secure and better secure for preventing shootings, then the shooters will focus their attention on hotels, or maybe the front entrances of airports, or um, Malls. There's still some areas where malls are really popular. Train stations, bus stations, where there's lots and lots of people gathering. You can't prevent something like that. All you can do is just be alert, cautious, pay attention, look around your surroundings. If you see someone acting suspicious or funny, maybe alert someone or stay away from them if you can. Um, but you can't just focus on one type of facility and say, well, we're going to just make every school in America airtight, with, military personnel there, soldiers there, 20 police officers there. You can't do that, because then you're taking away from other areas that they could be doing good things at. You can't just take every single military officer or police officer or detective and say you're going to be at all the schools in America, patrolling all this. It's just not practical. I've always known this, not trying to sound like, oh, I know everything, but I've always known that you can't secure every single building or every single school in this country, as big as this country is. Um, and it's always going to be that way. I mean, you're always going to have some bad along with good, mostly good. There are mostly good people in the world, but you're always going to have a few bad apples that get through the system, sneak through the cracks, and cause problems. Like, for example, unless you're like a really rich person living in this mansion and your whole mansion's surrounded by a gate and you've got the best security, unless you're that person, a burglar or a perpetrator, somebody that doesn't like you, will always be able to find a way inside your property, inside your home, to inflict, whether it be harm on you or murder. Um, so, I guess to answer your question, what I'm saying is, yeah, they're always going to, have a soft side when it comes to schools, especially elementary schools, when there's a shooting or any kind of act of violence, because it's children that's being involved. So, of course, they're going to make a bigger deal out of a school than they are a grocery store getting shot. That's just the way it is. I mean, it's always going to be that way. But as far as preventing it, to answer your question on prevention, yeah, there's no way to prevent every single act of violence, every shooting from happening. That's impossible. I mean, there's 330 million people living in the United States alone, just this country, with thousands and thousands, probably millions of businesses in this country. If somebody gets their hands on a few firearms legally, and they have the right to own those firearms, they're easily going to be able to commit an act of violence on a grocery store, a mall, a school, an airport, a hotel, an insurance building, a hospital. I didn't even think about hospitals. But yeah, I mean, so I would say it's the classic case of, what do you call that? Hindsight is 2020. Sure, after the fact, you can always make an excuse or an assumption that they could have done a better job of securing this school or this building after the fact. It's always after the fact. People can always, after the fact, say, well, they could have done a better job of this, a better job of that. I mean, you could do that in anything in life. For example, golf. I enjoy playing golf. I enjoy watching golf. You could go on the golf course and play the worst round of your life. And while you're in the middle of having that struggle, there's nothing you could do about it. You're just going through the motions. Everything's bad. Then a couple hours later, after you're finished golfing, you could sit down and say, oh, I could have done this better. I could have prevented, me from making a bogey on that hole or a double bogey on this hole. You can always cry after the fact and say, well, I could have done this theoretically better than how I did it. When I was younger, I used to always say stuff like that. I'd be like, man, they could have done this better. They could have prevented this from happening, or I'd be watching a football game and my team would go for it on 4th and 1. They wouldn't get it and they'd lose the game. Afterwards, I'd be thinking, man, if they wouldn't have went for it on 4th and 1, they could have won the game. See, like the woulda, coulda, shoulda game, you could go on and on with that. It's the same thing with violence, gun shootings, these mass shootings, you could always after the fact say, oh yeah, they could have done a better job. They could have had better security, better police patrol, better police presence, better alarm systems. You could always do this after the fact, but it doesn't change anything. um, and what is it they've always said? I think a famous detective said this once, that criminals are always going to be at least 1 to 2 steps ahead of law enforcement, because they get to sit back and watch, these laws that are being implemented. They get to watch this from a distance. And then after, these new restrictions are created or new laws, then they get to say, now I figured out a better way to get around it. So that's why they're always going to be ahead. They're always going to be ahead of law enforcement. It's not something that I'm saying is good. I'm saying it's a terrible thing, but it is a fact. Criminals are always going to be not just 1 step, but probably multiple steps ahead of law enforcement agencies. And you just got to do the best that you can. I mean, like after these school shootings, maybe just try to raise more awareness on paying attention to your surroundings. If you see somebody walking around a business or a school or wherever, and they look suspicious, maybe they're wearing body armor, or maybe they're acting unusual in some kind of way, just either stay away from them or try to notify someone. That's all you can do. You can't make these schools or these buildings, these businesses airtight. There's always going to be a way to get inside of a school or a hotel or a grocery store and shoot people. I mean, it's just the way that it is. I don't like it. I think it's terrible, but it just is the way that it is. And it's always going to be that way. The only way they could ever completely, like I said earlier, eliminate shootings is they would literally have to get rid of every single gun on the planet. They would have to take every gun, destroy them, never make any more guns ever again. And that would pretty much get rid of every shooting. So unless you're some genius that knows how to build your own machine gun or rifle. But that's the only way. And I personally don't agree with doing that, because there's so many crazy people on this planet that I do believe a lot of us do need guns. I personally don't own a gun. I've never owned a gun, but I'm just saying I understand the people that do own guns and the people that are responsible with guns. I don't have a problem with that. So yeah, I hope I answered your question right. You guys know I like to keep these streams somewhat short and to the point. I don't like to go on and on and on about other topics other than the topic at hand for this video. So yeah, schools are always going to be valued more because there's children involved. Number two, can these attacks be prevented? No, they can't. And the third part that I went over was how criminals are always going to be a step ahead. It's just the way it is. These guys are always going to be a step ahead because they get to sit back and watch everything unfold, and then they get to decide, well, I could figure out a way around that. So they're always going to be ahead. Anyways, guys, this is going to wrap it up. If you would be so kind to like my streams, subscribe if you would like to, leave comments. Also ask me questions, suggestions for new videos like this video, for example. And I'll be sure to go through all your questions, your video suggestions, and try to make a stream on whatever you want me to talk about or answer. So you guys have a great day. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I am going to end this stream. Peace out, guys. Take care.